the busy city of Jutengai, where everyone looks like animals, big changes are coming. The city's leader is getting ready to retire and become a god. They need to pick a new leader, and two main choices are Inuzen, who is calm and collected, and Kumatetsu, who is fierce and wild. Their fight will decide who becomes the new leader. Meanwhile, in Shibuya at night, a boy named Ren is running from the police. Ren's life has been hard. Mom has died, and his dad left them a long time ago. He didn't want to live with his relatives, so he chose to live on the streets by himself. As he wanders around, he complains about how much he hates everyone. To his surprise, a dark version of himself appears and repeats his words. While eating, Ren makes friends with a tiny creature like a mouse that he names Chico. Ren then meets Kumatetsu, a huge bear-like creature, and his monkey friend, Tatara. Kumatetsu is looking for a disciple and likes Ren's eyes, so he offers him the job. Tatara steps in and takes Kumatetsu away. After thinking it over, Ren decides to follow Kumatetsu but gets chased by the police and has to run away. He sees Kumatetsu disappear into a narrow alley. Ren, unsure but determined, follows him and ends up in a confusing maze. Just when he's about to give up, a donkey helps him out of the alley and onto the colorful streets of Jutengai, where people look like animals. Ren is confused and wants to go back, but finds that the alley has closed behind him. He tries to find a way out and is soon surrounded by wolves who want to eat him. Just in time, a pig-like monk named Hyakushubo saves him and offers to help. But Kumatetsu shows up again and insists that Ren is his disciple. After a bit of arguing about whether a human should be a disciple, Kumatetsu takes Ren to his messy home. Since Ren won't tell him his real name, Kumatetsu decides to call him Kyuta, which means ninth boy, because Ren is 9 years old. Before bed, Kumatetsu warns Kyuta that if he cries or complains, he'll be sent back to the streets. Later, Kyuta steps outside and imagines seeing his mother bringing him food. Realizing it's just a dream, he sits down and cries. The next morning, Kumatetsu finds Kyuta sleeping in a chicken coop. They have breakfast together, where Kumatetsu happily eats rice with raw eggs, while Kyuta is grossed out by the raw eggs. Not wanting to be anyone's disciple, Kyuta runs away to the streets. In the city, Kyuta gets caught by Yozen's disciple. Yozen, Kumatetsu's rival, tells Kumatetsu to return Kyuta to the human world, saying humans and beast people shouldn't mix because humans have darkness in them. Kumatetsu disagrees and challenges Yozen to a fight. They fight in the middle of a busy market with a crowd watching. At first, Kumatetsu seems to be winning. The crowd starts cheering for Yozen. As Yozen beats Kumatetsu, Kyuta sees how alone Kumatetsu is and tries to cheer him up. Even though Kyuta tries, Kumatetsu gets knocked out. The Grandmaster steps in and lets Kumatetsu keep Kyuta as his disciple. Back home, Kyuta tells Kumatetsu he will be his disciple if he can become stronger. To show he's serious, he starts eating the raw eggs over rice, even though he doesn't like them. This makes Kumatetsu very happy. The next day, Kyuta starts sword training. He's not good at it, and Kumatetsu isn't great at teaching. Kumatetsu tells Kyuta to hold the sword with his heart. Kyuta doesn't get it. Frustrated, Kumatetsu leaves for a few days. While he's gone, Kyuta gets bullied by Yozen's kid while doing chores for Kumatetsu. When Kumatetsu returns, he and Kyuta argue again. Kyuta complains about being weak, while Kumatetsu grumbles about not being as good as Yozen. Suddenly, the Grandmaster shows up and gives Kyuta and Kumatetsu a new mission. They need to travel around the land to meet wise sages and learn what true strength really means. As they travel, Kyuta and Kumatetsu keep arguing, Kumatetsu always telling Kyuta to hurry up. They visit 5 different sages, and each one has a unique idea about what being strong means. Kyuta starts to worry that he might never be good at anything and will always be weak, while Kumatetsu feels like he's not a good teacher. To get better, Kyuta begins copying everything Kumatetsu does, hoping to learn from him. At first, Kumatetsu is annoyed by this, but eventually, he starts to see the benefit. Over time, Kyuta becomes so skilled that he can predict Kumatetsu's moves and dodge his attacks easily. In return, Kyuta teaches Kumatetsu how to read his opponent's moves. As Kyuta gets stronger, he stops being bullied, and Kumatetsu also gets better, with his moves becoming more precise as he focuses more on their training. Over the years, Kyuta becomes known for his strength, and many people want to become Kumatetsu's student. One day, while trying to escape from Kumatetsu, Kyuta finds the alley that leads to the human world. Curious, he goes to a library to see if he can still read. There, he meets a girl named Kade, a high school student who is being bullied for trying to enforce library rules. Gyuta helps her drive off the bullies, and in return, Kade agrees to teach him how to read. Gyuta splits his time between learning to read in the human world and helping Kumatetsu teach his students in the beast world. As they spend more time together, Gyuta and Kade become close friends. Kade shares that her parents always wanted her to achieve good grades, but now she just wants to leave home and live her own life. She encourages Gyuta to take a college entrance exam for people who haven't finished high school. However, Gyuta can't take the exam because he doesn't have an address or family. While sorting through his family records, Gyuta finds his father's address. He goes there but feels unsure and decides not to knock, heading back home instead. On his way, he unexpectedly runs into his father, who doesn't recognize him at first. This meeting makes Gyuta question whether he should stay in the beast world or try living a normal human life. At home, Gyuta tells Kumatetsu he's set on going to school in the human world. Even though Kumatetsu doesn't like it, Kumatetsu, unable to change his mind, reluctantly agrees to let him go. When Gyuta's father tries to reconnect and act like everything is normal, Gyuta gets frustrated by his father's casual attitude about the past and runs away again. Feeling abandoned by both Kumatetsu and his father, he returns to the streets of Shibuya and sees the dark shadow from his childhood, which symbolizes his old pain and confusion. At the library, Kade notices Gyuta is upset. He argues with her, and she slaps him in response. Realizing he was wrong, Gyuta apologizes. Before he leaves, Kade gives him a charm and tells him to look at it whenever he feels lost. Back in Jutengai, Gyuta learns that the Grandmaster has picked the god he wants to become, so the final fight to choose the next Grandmaster is about to start. Yuzen's son tells Gyuta that his father has been training hard for the fight. They shake hands, promising to stay friends no matter what happens. As Gyuta heads home, he is suddenly attacked by Yuzen's older son, Ichirohiko. Gyuta sees that Ichirohiko has a dark aura on his chest, similar to the one he saw in his own shadow. The Grandmaster fight begins, with Kumatetsu fighting hard but struggling against Iozen's quick moves. When Kumatetsu is close to losing, Gyuta shouts words of encouragement, urging him to keep going. This pep talk leads to an argument between them, which gives Kumatetsu renewed energy to fight. He fights with a big smile, like he does during training with Gyuta. In the end, Kumatetsu disarms Iozen and knocks him out, winning the fight. While Gyuta is congratulating Kumatetsu, Iozen walks away from the arena. Suddenly, Ichirohiko uses his dark telekinetic powers to stab Kumatetsu with his father's sword. Seeing this, Gyuta's own inner darkness starts to flare up, and he feels ready to attack Ichirohiko for revenge. But then Chiko steps in, and Gyuta calms down when he looks at the charm Kade gave him. Ichirohiko's dark aura then completely surrounds him, and he vanishes. Kumatetsu survives but is knocked out. Iozen explains that he found Ichirohiko as a baby in a human world alley and raised him, pretending he was a beast. This lie made Ichirohiko feel insecure and dark inside. Understanding this, Gyuta decides to find Ichirohiko. Even though Tatara and Hyakushubo try to stop him, Gyuta isn't driven by revenge. He realizes that he and Ichirohiko are similar, but he was saved from darkness by the people who cared for him. Grateful for everything, Gyuta decides to thank Kade in the human world. He worries about whether he can defeat Ichirohiko. Just then, Ichirohiko appears and attacks them in the street. Gyuta and Kade run, but Ichirohiko chases them with a giant shadow that causes chaos everywhere it goes. Gyuta comes up with a plan. He will absorb Ichirohiko's darkness into himself, and then end his own life to destroy it. Meanwhile, back in Jutengai, Kumatetsu asks the Grandmaster to become a god, hoping it will help save Gyuta. In the human world, as Ichirohiko continues his attack, Gyuta draws his sword to absorb the darkness. Suddenly, a flaming sword appears between them. People of Jutengai explain that this sword is actually Kumatetsu, who has transformed into a divine sword to help Gyuta. The sword merges with Gyuta's heart, becoming part of him. Using this new power, Gyuta cuts through Ichirohiko's darkness without harming him. Gyuta gives Ichirohiko Kade's charm to help him control his darkness in the future. Kumatetsu now lives inside Gyuta, and Iozen welcomes Ichirohiko back home. In Jutengai, Gyuta is celebrated as a hero. The Grandmaster loses his chance to become a god because Kumatetsu's transformation prevents it, so he remains the Grandmaster. Kade eventually joins Gyuta in the Beast World. Finally, Kyuta returns to the human world and has a long-awaited dinner with his father. And that's how The Boy and the Beast ends.